Hey guys, Andres here. So for the first time on my channel, I'm going to make a response video. A video where I review someone else's video and find so many bad takes on the subject that I just had to debunk them. Now keep in mind, I'm only gonna do this once in a while, and I should also tell my audience to obviously not harass whoever I talk about. This is mainly just for fun. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm gonna talk about a guy by the name of Braden Alberti. I'm really sorry if I'm somehow botching that. So my first exposure to this guy was this video titled The MCU Villain Problem. It's an actually well-written video that puts more light into how Marvel Studios won't take advantage of their roster of colorful villains with unique personalities and backgrounds. Sure, it's pretty questionable why Captain Marvel is front and center with Thanos in the thumbnail, but I'm sure it's nothing. I liked this video so much that I decided to check out more of his channel and... Oh. Yeah, he's one of those people. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. While well edited, his other videos are terrible. Like this one about how Spider-Man has changed. He goes on about how Miles Morales is ruining Spider-Man's legacy, and in the process, how he's not even that special. And he deadass got the entire message of Across the Spider-Verse backwards. Another example is this 3-part essay about MCU Thor. Part 1 is actually solid. There are some things I agree with, like how he doesn't speak in Coach Shakespearean and his movies aren't fantastical enough. But when he gets to Thor Ragnarok in Part 2, I'm just gonna tell you guys to go watch that video. I'll even leave it in the description below so you can see it for yourselves, okay? 3, 2, 1, you're back? Alright, let's do a quick lightning round here. Nolan's Batman is not part of a cinematic universe, and Thor the Dark World was not an acclaimed masterpiece. Trigon is a Teen Titans villain. Most notably Raven, not one of Batman's rogues. The Joker is not Bruce Wayne's troublesome brother, nor is he magical. Alfred and Odin are not the same character. Harley Quinn is far from the same as Hela. Ma and Pa Kent are not the same as Korg and Meek. Sakaar is not Metropolis. And unlike Thor and Hulk, this Batman does not know Superman. Also pretty funny how he uses the animated Killing Joke to visually reference Batgirl, given that that movie objectifies the shit out of her. It even has her sleep with a guy twice her own age. Say, don't you criticize Joss Whedon for how he handled Black Widow?
Oh, but they're a match because they're both monsters, you see. Because she can't have kids, you see. Yeah, I bet you're real proud of that one, aren't you, Joss?
And something else you should know about this guy is that he hates legacy characters. He doesn't give any constructive criticism about how they're written. He doesn't offer solutions on how they could be better. Nope. He's the kind of guy who'd go like this.
I don't want change! I don't want change! Everything has to stay the same!
Speaking of which, he made a 10-minute video about how Marvel nowadays hates comic fans by giving us new interpretations. I've already seen the video, so please bear with me here.
See this? Why is this the way it is? They call this the Silver Surfer, but that is odd because the Silver Surfer is supposed to look like this. Is it so hard to just make the character look the way he's supposed to? You wouldn't think so, considering his previous appearance in the very problematic, technologically inferior Fantastic Four film from 20 years ago pretty much nailed the design in spite of the movie's many other faults. Yet for some reason, Marvel seems to always have this problem in everything they do nowadays.
Ah, we're already opening with a delicious one, okay. Remember the Justice League cartoons from the DCAU? Remember how Flash and Green Lantern were Wally West and Jon Stewart instead of Barry Allen and Hal Jordan? Heck, come to think of it, those weren't even the original donners of the respective mantles. It was these two. So, what's the problem if they use Shala Bal instead of Norrin Radd as the Silver Surfer?
It's like they have a vendetta against comic fans, given how they always seem to go out of their way to butcher the designs of these characters, or the stories they are meant to tell.
What?
It's always a new interpretation, or a retelling of the classic story, but it's seldom ever an attempt at just the classic story itself. We can't just have Valkyrie, we have to have this drunken she-king. We can't just have Moon Knight, instead we have to deal with Egypt Man, who saves the day with the power of Egypt. We can't just have Mary Jane Watson, no, she must become Michelle Jones.
Miss Jones-Watson?
Jones, I don't go by Watson.
Alrighty, credit where credit's due. This is something I can get behind. I cannot stand Korg. Valkyrie feels like she belongs in an Adam Sandler movie. Moon Knight should be more street level. And it still boggles my mind why they changed Mary Jane's name and don't even let Zendaya dye her hair red. But then...
we can't just have a normal Silver Surfer. We have to diversify, because apparently it's too much of a problem to have the same silver dude we've always had.
You lost me.
Norrin Radd and Shala Bal are not the same character. As a matter of fact, they are married to each other. Did you actually think this was the former but gender bent?
And some of you might say, well, what's it to you? Why do you have a problem with the changes? What's wrong with making him female? To that I say, why do you have a problem with the way he used to be? The Silver Surfer has always been a male. Why does it have to change? Why do you see a problem with that?
Nobody said they had a problem with Norrin Rad. He's still a fan favorite character. And again, this is his wife, not a gender bent version. Dude, seriously, it's not like we're talking about Molly McGee and Ollie Chen here.
Same with every other character who suffered a gender swap, a race swap, or any other kind of change.
Where to even begin? Okay, let's go from right to left. What's the problem with Logan's own daughter taking the mantle of the Wolverine? I will admit that the idea of Jane having Thor's powers is kind of goofy, but it is fun to see them both fight together as a couple regardless. Carol Danvers is not a gender swapped version of her frickin' boyfriend. Gwen is the Spider-Woman of her own universe where she isn't killed by Green Goblin in Peter's arms. And Scarlet Witch, why is she here? The only things that have changed about her are her outfits and her love life. Come on, tell me. I really want to know.
I'm waiting.
Why does it have to be different? Why do you need to change it? What problem was there before? I don't care for the new interpretations of some random writer or director. I like these comics. I like the characters in these comics.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? This Silver Surfer is not Norrin Rad.
The fake Silver Surfer shows up. And by the way, people gave me a lot of crap in the past for wanting a real comic-accurate Silver Surfer instead of this knockoff, because they insist that this is a comic-accurate character and that I need to do more research. So fine, here are all the Shala Ball Silver Surfer comic appearances. She shows up for about 5 panels in the Earth X book, with her death scene taking up most of these panels. So, clearly, this is a character that deserves an MCU film, and fans of the real one will just have to wait several more years, if ever, to see him show up, who, by the way, was also in the Earth X comic as the Silver Surfer. They rode the board together. This movie shares no resemblance to Earth X outside of the character having the same name. So to all those who gave me a hard time for not researching this clearly iconic comic appearance, shut up.
Oh, so you did eventually realize these are not the same character.
Well, bully for you.
I want to see these comics get adapted as they are, because nothing is wrong with them, and there's a reason why they became famous in the first place.
Yeah, cool, fair enough. I'd also like to see Marvel Studios properly adapt Planet Hulk if they do reboot after Secret Wars.
I don't want them to change, because I want them to be the same great characters that I recognize from the same great stories of the past.
Yeah, that really depends on what you're talking about though, because that could mean many things. The art styles, the writing, the characters, the lore, which, yeah, this being a comic book universe, it changes a lot. So what I'm asking here is, what exactly don't you want to see change? Alright, the genders. Silly me. Okay, got it.
I wouldn't want Blade to be white. I wouldn't want Mysterio to be handsome. I just want the characters to look the way they're supposed to.
Okay, first of all, this is the classic straw man of, it'd be like making this black person white, when literally no one said they wanted Blade to be white. In fact, they always had a black actor in mind for him. Second of all, who cares what Mysterio looks like? Him being too ugly for Hollywood did not affect other appearances, like the animated series or Spectacular Spider-Man. And what his face looked like did not affect anything in the whole freaking movie. As a matter of fact, none of the AIs in the movie recognizing him is a big fat plot hole. So again, who cares?
Marvel didn't have a problem with this for the past century, but now all of a sudden in this modern age, it's a big kerfuffle.
Oh no, a black man as Captain America. And according to my calculations, that's horrible!
We can't just have the classic Doctor Doom. It now has to be a new spin that includes the return of Robert Downey Jr., because actors are now a higher priority than the story itself.
Oh yeah, this I agree with. I made an entire video about it, but to sum it up, oh yeah, it is a desperate stunt cast.
This point can be stretched further with the Avengers Doomsday announcement, in which we are essentially told that the casting was done in spite of the story, and the characters that are meant to be portrayed. And it's not possible for a classic comic story to be represented in this film, because the plot will be too busy revolving itself around the actors that are playing in it. For example, Cyclops will make his MCU debut at the age of 51. That is roughly how old Professor X is supposed to be. Meanwhile, Professor X himself and Magneto will be pushing 90.
They're gonna make him do this till he's 90.
Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the work both of these men have done in the past, but now they are simply too old to represent these characters, and keeping them around implies that neither Professor X nor Magneto will do all that much in Doomsday, because their actors will simply lack the ability.
Now, I agree it's kind of stupid to bring back the Foxman movies for this thing, especially with how old the actors are. And in isolation, I have no problem with this argument. But here's a question. What does this have to do with the video's topic? This is an old interpretation, not a new one. At best, this has nothing to do with anything, and at worst, it just noobs the rest of the video.
We also won't see them as MCU regulars as a result of their age as well. The New Adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy is no longer a parody. It is what Marvel Studios is seriously trying to pursue in this modern age. And I'm not even strictly speaking about these two here. The large majority of the current MCU cast is above 40.
To the meatloaf!
You know that being successful elderly Hollywood faces, they could have just said no, right?
It is apparently too much to ask for a classic X-Men storyline to take place in this larger MCU world, and the best they can do is cheap multiverse cameos, where instead of seeing Magneto appear, you see Ian McKellen, and instead of Professor X, you get to see Patrick Stewart.
Obviously, this point didn't age very well, especially with them announcing a new movie coming after Secret Wars, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and speculate that he either didn't know or nothing was announced by the time he edited this video.
They already had their swan songs nearly 10 years ago, and yet they are still getting dragged out on stage like they're Ric Flair. Why? Because this isn't a movie about Marvel heroes, it is a movie about actors, and that is frustrating.
Ooh, yes, I agree. They should focus more on the integrity of the characters in their world rather than pure star power. Something the prequel X-Men movies suffered for casting Jennifer Lawrence of all people as Mystique of all characters.
Moreover, Marvel will pay Pedro Pascal buckets of money to play himself instead of Mr. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Brayden is one of those people who say Pedro Pascal is in too many things and is ruining Hollywood somehow. I don't see anyone say the same about Keanu Reeves. I don't see anyone say the same thing about Alan Tudyk. I only see people say this about The Rock and Jack Black, because they have actually become annoying personality-wise. I don't think people had a problem with Harrison Ford playing both Han Solo and Indiana Jones. I could go on. Call me paranoid, but could it be that Pedro only receives shit because, you know, he's this highly successful brown-skinned Hollywood actor who defended his trans sister from internet trolls and also gets to consensually hold hands with female co-stars? Nah, that can't be it, because that would be immature and stupid, but I digress. Also, the characters he plays are not the same. Maxwell Lord is not the same as Mando. Fink from The Wild Robot is not the same as Joel from Last of Us, and neither of those are the same as Mr. Fantastic. It's like saying all of Jim Carrey's characters are the same thing. Lloyd Christmas is an idiot, Ace Ventura is a detective, Fletcher Reed is a scummy deadbeat liar, Stanley Ipkiss is a pushover who doesn't want any bad blood with people. The Grinch is a nasty grub who hates Christmas, Dr. Robotnik is a power-hungry self-centered scientist who thinks he's above everyone else. You're acting as if Pascal was Adam Sandler doing his Happy Madison routine.
And also only for a couple movies, because he is also pretty high up in age. It's clear that they don't have longevity in mind. They're just trying to find short-term success wherever possible.
Pedro is barely 50 years old as of this recording. Hey, Hal Jordan will be played by a 60-year-old in the DCU. Must mean he won't appear that much.
What happens in the next movie? Will we have to reintroduce all of these same characters for a second time, when they will inevitably need to be recast? Or will they just replace these characters the way they did with Iron Man and Black Panther?
Oh yeah, I'm sure Ironheart will be able to replace Iron Man. Off topic, by the way, I do like how they are pretty much their own Peter and Miles at this point. Also, while I agree they should have waited a few more years to recast T'Challa, what's exactly the problem with Shuri being a successor? What if one day he's out of commission, or just like in the movie, he... His father is dead, his mother is too old, his cousin is a tyrant literally called Killmonger, he either has no kids or they're too young. I wonder who could possibly take over for him. I wonder who.
The MCU is built off the idea of a long-term interconnected franchise. They are shooting themselves in the foot by creating these short-term problems, and these are questions we shouldn't have to ask if only they would prioritize the story first and casted new actors that are better fits for these multi-film roles.
Yes, this is in fact an interconnected franchise, but what about Avengers Doomsday's casting contradicts that? Also, even though I just agreed that the Foxman cast being here out of desperation, on the other side of the dime, recasting Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen to accompany these X-Men wouldn't have made sense, especially when they're still available.
Some of you may say, don't hate on these actors. They're perfect for these roles and no one can replace them. Robert Downey Jr. is the perfect Iron Man. Hugh Jackman is the perfect Wolverine. And to that I say, you're just completely wrong. Everyone always says this about the new Batman, and then they always end up liking the new Batman. The same can be said for Spider-Man and the Hulk and every other character who's been replaced over the years.
Yeah, great point. Just because one actor straight up personified the role, doesn't mean another can't.
The reality is, acting is not as hard as we make it seem.
Well, that was quite the 180, huh? Did you seriously just say, acting is not as hard as we make it seem?
and the world will happily accept any new replacement so long as the story is good.
Dude, please. The 2019 Joker movie meets your comic book guy standards. The movie which Todd Phillips just wanted to make a Martin Scorsese homage, rather than actually representing Batman's arch nemesis. Wonderful. Hey, now that I think about it, I'm surprised you don't hate The Dark Knight, because in that movie, he didn't fall into a vat of chemicals.
You hear that, everyone? The story needs to be good in order for the movie to be a success. What a novel concept.
Literally no one is denying that.
But it's not just the movies, but the games and the shows as well. Along with every other type of media, every new project has to be some new spin, to the point where this has become a very confused brand. One that doesn't know what it wants its IP to be at any given moment.
Sounds hard. Really hard.
Instead of getting shows about beloved classic Marvel characters and storylines, we get shows about characters like Agatha Harkness and Echo, who are so obscure that they could barely tell a comic-accurate story even if they wanted to.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why, I don't know how, but Agatha pretty much became what Harley Quinn is nowadays. Just a dumb, funny, yet sexualized mascot character who's trying way too hard to be the next Deadpool.
So instead, they deliver cheap, politically motivated slop that has nothing to do with the Marvel brand whatsoever.
Okay, since I still refuse to watch this show, I'm just gonna assume whatever political talking point they do is actually bad, and not at all something only a bigot would make a big deal out of. Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
We once had a classic Marvel adaptation in the form of Daredevil, but that show has since been stripped of its comic roots and has been forced into a TV original storyline that is nowhere near as profound, compelling, or accurate to the classic storytelling of this character's past.
Yeah, Daredevil Born Again is terrible. Not only is it an abysmal continuation to Season 3, but it's also poorly written as its own thing. However, I don't think comic accuracy was ever its problem. They adapt the story of Kingpin being elected mayor of New York, Muse actually looks like himself, and Bullseye breaks a tooth to shoot it like a spitting bullet. More like a spitting bullet. No? Anyone? I thought it was funny. So again, comic accuracy was not part of the show's problems.
X-Men 97 was a rare gem that actually seemed to care about and respect its legacy. However, Marvel has quickly fired that show's creator after its release.
And for good reason. That guy was sexually harassing the staff, and I kid you not, he actually expected people to hear his side of the story through his OnlyFans account.
And doesn't seem to want to embrace the reverent direction that this show has taken. And even being as good as this show was, it still wasn't safe from the injections of modern politics through the form of the non-comic character Morph.
So not only do you have a problem with legacy characters who just happen to be female and or non-white, not only do you have a problem with Pedro Pascal's resume, but you also have a problem with gay characters existing in a superhero franchise. No wait, let me rephrase that. You have a problem with a marginalized person existing in the X-Men of all things.
Whose balls did I have to fondle to get my very own movie? I can't tell you, but it does rhyme with Pulverine. And let me tell you, he's got a nice pair of smooth criminals down under.
Are you sure you're a Marvel fan?
There was hope that Marvel would attempt to make a similar show to 97 in the form of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but it quickly became apparent that this would be far from the case.
For those who might be getting tired of the same old takes on Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is a marvelously good time and a refreshing take on Spider-Man's infamous origin story.
I mean, yeah, the guy could have certainly worded it better, but he's not wrong that you need to make changes here and there to keep your new version fresh.
This guy, whom they call Norman Osborn, is going to replace Tony Stark as Peter's mentor, even though Peter isn't even supposed to have a mentor like this in the first place, outside of Uncle Ben, who intentionally dies very early in the story, because Peter was meant to figure things out on his own.
Okay, probably unlike you, I have seen the show.
A.
Uncle Ben is mentioned and still referred to as someone important Peter and May lost.
And 3.
Norman will not be Peter's permanent mentor. Throughout the show, Norman's true colors show more and more, and so Peter decides to quit his internship. I guess Batman Begins was bad because Ra's al Ghul is the one who trains Batman to fight. Also, that comment, this guy whom they call Norman Osborn, that's, pretty interesting.
It's just a big mess that didn't used to be a problem. There used to be a consistent through line between all these different forms of media, in that you could recognize these characters in look, personality, and story, no matter where you saw them, be it movies, games, or anything else. It is apparently too much to ask for just a normal Spider-Man story. So now every time we see him, he and his side characters have to be portrayed in wildly different ways, to the point where it's hard to say who Spider-Man is even supposed to be anymore, and most modern fans don't have any clue as to what he used to represent.
Almost like the new younger writers just want to give their own unique spin on these iconic characters, similar to how every version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles does. What a concept, am I right?
Now we have to view him on a case-by-case basis, as simply calling him Spider-Man is no longer enough. Now we must call him Disney Plus's Spider-Man, or Insomniac's Spider-Man, or the MCU's Spider-Man, or the Spider-Verse Spider-Man, or other such nonsense.
Wait, you actually think all of his versions are just labeled, supposedly because fans don't know what he's supposed to be like?
What?
You know, Batman has a lot of versions with labels. Is that because fans are confused about who Bruce Wayne is supposed to be? Or, hear me out, is it simply to specify which version someone could be talking about in a conversation?
Spider-Man used to be one character with one compelling, clear story, but Marvel seems to have forsaken that, along with anyone who appreciated the way things used to be.
And then I looked at my uncle and...
Let me guess. He died?
Nowadays, Marvel will use the excuse of embracing the multiverse to justify these great changes, but this just comes off as a cheap way to not stay consistent with itself, and free its creators from the responsibility of maintaining continuity. But this is foolish because, as we all know, with great power comes great responsibility. Marvel currently has a lot of the former, but not much of the latter.
Yeah, I agree that Captain Carter should have just stayed as a what-if idea rather than a mainstay mascot, and they should put more effort into the writing rather than visual gimmicks.
The Marvel of old was also able to utilize concepts like alternate universes without sacrificing the core essence of what these stories are meant to portray, and to be honest, it really shouldn't be that difficult to maintain this consistency.
Oh yeah, Ultimate Captain America, the one whose A doesn't stand for France. Thor here is wielding Stormbreaker, not Mjolnir, and Wolverine in this game looks nothing like his comic self. He looks more akin to Hugh Jackman than anything.
All this stuff wouldn't even be so bad if only comic fans could have an outlet where they could go to enjoy the more classic storytelling.
I agree, it would be cool if Marvel had a free website where fans can read where it all began.
Unfortunately, not only does that space not exist, but the comics themselves are constantly getting changed to conform with these modern adaptations.
I agree that Agatha should not look as young as her niece, nor also have this new go-with-the-flow personality. But I really do not see the issue with Bucky joining the Thunderbolts.
The pre-MCU classic Marvel comics have not been serviced and given a spotlight in so long that now to be a fan of everything that Marvel was prior to the movies is to now be in the minority.
Dude, stop treating this like ethnic cleansing. At least you're not a Romani Marvel fan.
So now we see things like Bucky joining the Thunderbolts out of nowhere. The TV original love interest for Moon Knight has been retconned into being his long-lost love in the comics, even though he was already supposed to be in a relationship with someone else.
Wait, he was with that one tiger lady from the Chip and Dale movie?
And Falcon will become Captain America once more, even though he was already cancelled as Captain America because those books sucked. But now he's getting a movie, so his comic self gets to be Captain America a second time, regardless of the damage that is caused in the comic storyline.
He's one of Steve's best friends. Why wouldn't he at least consider giving it another shot? Also, what damage did it do? Did people die because there are now two Captain Americas?
These books aren't about telling a story at all anymore. Now they're just long, overpriced advertisements for whatever the newest MCU project is.
Didn't see people have a problem with the Guardians of the Galaxy doing this, but whatever.
In taking a deeper dive into the gaming front, Marvel Rivals is decent enough to play, but it's plainly obvious that it cares more about being an Overwatch clone than it cares about being a Marvel game.
As long as the game is functional and enjoyable, people will not care, especially if they've never played Overwatch in their lives. While I'm at it, you don't think people want DC to have their own Overwatch clone? Shit, I wish Disney and Warner Bros. Did the same as Nickelodeon by making their own Smash Bros. Clone. That doesn't count.
Given how many character playstyles and designs often have very little resemblance to their comic selves.
Oh, really? Well then, explain to me how Namor should play in a game like this. Come on, let's hear it.
I'm waiting. Yeah, we're waiting.
Even the alternate costumes that are meant to directly represent the comics do an incredibly weak job at it. The 20-year-old Ultimate Alliance game had more faithful and accurate designs with its limited graphic capabilities than this modern AAA title with its ugly, over-designed art style.
Yeah, I can agree. Some skins, especially most defaults, are way too over-designed. but I wouldn't call them ugly.
Though it's funny, because they can make MCU skins that are spot-on representations, they can also do it with skins from other games. It's only the comic skins where they feel the need to take artistic liberties. This point can't be emphasized enough. Just look at how exact this is. The pattern on his neck piece is 1 for 1. His asymmetrical armbands are a perfect match. His doofy shorts are equally unflattering. Meanwhile, you can compare pretty much every element of this comic skin and find that just about every aspect of this costume has been changed for the game, to the point where it's odd that they would even call it a reference. When stuff like this happens, it's hard to avoid the feeling that this is a targeted slight against comic fans.
Okay, firstly, of course the more promotional skins are gonna be as one-to-one as possible. Secondly, while yes, I agree they take too many liberties with comic costumes, I seriously would not jump the gun saying Namor having more golden pieces or Joe Fixit having blue lines is some targeted insult to comic fans. If anything, this just feels more like the designers flexing their muscles.
And with stuff like this happening for so long across so many forms of media, it really gives the impression that Marvel wants to get rid of that initial pre-MCU fanbase, the one that originally put them on the map. Hopefully, by calling this out, we can shed some light on the issue and get them the course correct, but if not, then the dwindling number of comic fans that Marvel still has may just entirely disappear for good.
So in conclusion, dear viewer, adding more non-straight white male superheroes, typecasted actors, and over-designed video game costumes are killing Marvel Comics as we know it. Oh, the humanity! What could we ever do? Now tell me, does this not sound like something Deadpool would say in the same mocking tone? This, with all due respect, was pretty dumb. Other than his point about the Foxmen in Avengers Doomsday, he never once in this 10-minute video explains why any of these new interpretations are bad. He never offers a solution for how any of them could be better. He just hates them because they exist.
Did I do something?
Yeah, you were born.
Wow, that's heavy.
You know, I wonder how he does it as a DC fan, given that that franchise has a shitload of bad people, super people, wonder people, a whole family of Flashes, like 4 or 5 Robins, an entire Green Lantern Corps, or maybe it's just some personal bone with how Marvel does it. Who knows? Anyway, Brayden, if you're watching this by any chance, first off, please tell me I didn't botch your name. But most importantly, please don't take this as an attack on you. At the end of the day, this is all just for fun. But if anyone would like to debate me, the comment section is wide open. And most importantly, just remember what the classic Dr. Seuss book, Green Eggs and Ham, taught us all. Always be open-minded. If you liked this video and would like to see more, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, tell other friends about me because you know how YouTube works these days, and comment your thoughts down below. See you next time, stay faithful and hopeful.